Hi, everyone. It's Dan. I just want to take a minute to wish all of our listeners and their families a very Merry Christmas. Please enjoy this Encore performance, and we will have all new episodes beginning January 4th. Today's show and the following message are brought to you by a former guest. Clientele Capital Management Group is a cannabis investment firm with diverse investments throughout all sectors of the cannabis industry. Listen to MJBulls episode 24 or go to Clientele, CLIINTEL capital.com to learn more.
These investors, when they're looking at your business and trying to see what public-facing presence is out there, they are going to be judging you at how does your website look? Is it sharp? Is it well-written? Is your social media maintained? Have you not posted on Twitter for 3 months? Because that looks pretty precarious.
From Bummin' It Media, it's the MJBulls Podcast, a show about raising cannabis capital. I'm Dan Humiston, and on today's show, part 5 in our series, Things to Know When Raising Cannabis Capital, Ricardo, Baca, and Shawna McGregor from Grasslands talk about public relations. Today we're continuing our series, Things to Know When Raising Cannabis Capital. We're talking public relations, and to help us with that, we have Ricardo Baca and Shawna McGregor from Grasslands. Ricardo and Shawna, welcome to the MJBull Podcast.
Thanks much.
Thanks for having us.
We're really excited to dive into this. This is a topic that sometimes is not thought about until afterwards, and the cannabis industry is just exploding, and funding is flowing into the industry. Every day you hear about another company successfully raising capital. And it puts a lot of pressure on the entrepreneur to just jump in and start raising money. And we put the series together to help them prepare so that they're better prepared for the before, during, and after, and all those boxes are checked. But one of the critically, and I believe often overlooked components of a capital raise is supporting it with a sound public relations strategy. Maybe we can start off by just talking about some of the basics. Like, what's the difference between a public relations and an investor relations?
So Dan, you're totally right. Public relations is really important when you're going through capital raises, especially in the cannabis industry, because the cannabis industry has even less communications channels and tools than other industries, but it is very important. And public relations targets a lot of different audiences, whether it's policymakers, regulators, consumers, academia, whereas investor relations is laser focused on reaching the investor community through different channels, earned media, social media, and other tactics as well.
Yes, think of it as investor relations is laser focused, but public relations is the more broad approach.
If you're thinking about this process, when would you engage a communications advisor?
So if you're smart, you'll find your agency partner as soon as possible, because you want to have enough of a runway to get all of your tactics and your collateral dialed in. There are things like making sure your website has a robust newsroom, making sure that your deck is polished and your fact sheet, and you've got your social media channels up and running. Those are all important. And, you need to have your thought leadership calendar lined out too, because you're going to want to be positioning your executive team, your CEO, your CFO, as the thought leaders in the space, and they need to be speaking at those important conferences. The best conferences out there are booking their speakers 6 months in advance. So this is planning that can be done, that should be done in the before section.
Yeah, and when we approach thought leadership here at Grasslands, we're also looking at the bylines that we can help our clients with, because a major part of modern leadership is leading the conversation and not just following it. And when you're writing original columns and op-eds that are being placed in targeted outlets, then that gives you a unique opportunity to lead the conversation, because then you, as an executive, you're not depending on a journalist to call you to get your reaction to a story or to the day's news. You are reacting to the day's news in a piece that appears under your byline. And so you're flexing your own thought leadership muscle. And I think that's really important in those days before starting to raise the capital.
Also, during this time, quite honestly, you should be starting to educate the reporters and the media in your sector, in your space. I mean, I don't know a single entrepreneur who's in the midst of raising capital who wouldn't want to be in a Wall Street Journal article or a New York Times article. And if your company deserves to be there, it will be if you have the right communications, the right education, and it just might take time and education.
Now let's just jump forward, and now you're in the middle of a raise. What are some tactics that you like to use with your clients when they're in the middle of a raise?
So you're in the middle of the raise. You're going on your road show. You're hitting New York City, Boston, San Francisco, Toronto. While you're on the road show, we can be helping to fill in all of that downtime. I'm being a little facetious here with those media in those markets. If you're a biotech cannabis company or a technology cannabis company and you're in San Francisco, there are a lot of key reporters that are in that market that you should be booking briefings with to share your narrative with them. I think that that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, and Dan, as a longtime journalist myself, I can speak to the importance of these briefings. You know, sometimes you hear from a communications professional saying, "Hey, we have a new client, and they're being kind of quiet right now because exciting things are in the pipeline." But I think you want to be in front of them, and I can tell you a little bit about it. And those are always exciting calls to get, especially if there's an element of exclusivity being discussed. But as a journalist, that's one way of getting their attention, to say, hey, there's something that not a lot of people know about yet and has not been written a lot about, but we want you to be one of the people who helps us share this story. So it really works from both sides.
Yeah, and especially if you're in that city and you can meet with them face to face, that's sometimes even better.
Of course. I mean, New York is this country's most important media hub. And it's very convenient that a lot of our clients are going through there when raising capital, because then we can put them in front of and get them FaceTime with some of our friends in the media who are passionate about telling them story. And of course, Dan, like the PR never stops throughout this process, whether we're talking about before, during, after. The PR push is strong. The social media campaign is kicking into high gear. These investors, when they're looking at your business and trying to see what public-facing presence is out there, they are going to be judging you at how does your website look? Is it sharp? Is it well-written? Is your social media maintained? Have you not posted on Twitter for 3 months? Because that looks pretty precarious. So you just need to keep up all of these important forward-facing communications elements on top and looking sharp.
Some entrepreneurs also like to add one of these, a slide into your deck about the brand awareness and exposure that the company has received. And a great way to provide metrics around that is the media coverage that you can receive from these initiatives and efforts.
So tying your deck right into this whole thing is another really effective tool.
That's definite. And then also, as you're going, hitting these markets, these stories are running, being able to share that coverage with your potential investors is also a great way to continue to keep them informed. Another touch point, another way to soften the beach.
I just want to do a quick thank you to one of our former guests, Blaze, which is a cannabis technology company with software for dispensaries, distributors, and coming soon, manufacturers and cultivators. Listen to MJBulls episode 33 or go to blaze.me to learn how you can be part of their expansion. And now back to the show. Deal is closed and everyone's happy and everyone's excited and they want to get the word out, but lo and behold, you have a bunch of new partners who all have their own communication advisors, who all have their own message that they want to get out, and there's a coordination effort that most people don't think about. Give us some tips on that, because I can just see some conflicts in the early days with your investors just if you get the communication incorrect.
And inevitably, you're going to have a lot of people coming to the table throughout this entire process. But I think it speaks to the value of maybe choosing an agency partner who can truly be a partner on multiple fronts and help you with a variety of these concerns.
I would love to jump in here and say one of the most interesting things that happens for me after the raise has closed. Company may be filing with the SEC, and then you have in these markets, you have the Business Journal reporters and other reporters that are watching these filings, and they are going to see if you're filing something, they're going to give you a call and want to check in and see what's up. I've had a lot of clients who are a little shy about this because I think that they're afraid of some sort of SEC regulation around this. Really, what I want to stress is that there's no reason why you cannot speak to the media, whether it's Dan going on your show or speaking with a Business Journal or whatever the case might be, to talk realistically and truthfully and transparently, which is very important to us, about your company's narrative. You should not be afraid to speak with media. They're not our enemies. They're our friends.
We've been speaking with Ricardo Baca and Shawna McGregor from the Grassland Agency. Guys, can you tell us a little bit more about your agency, and if people want to get in touch with you, how do they go about doing that?
Sure. Grasslands is a journalism-minded agency. Our cornerstone offerings are public relations, thought leadership, and content. And, we're based out of Denver, but we're opening an office in Los Angeles. And, we specialize in working with highly regulated industries. Cannabis and hemp are certainly a major passion of ours. And, people can find us on the web at mygrasslands.com.
All of Grassland's information will be on the MJBulls website, including Ricardo's and Shawna's email addresses. Ricardo and Shawna, thank you. This has been super helpful. And I know everyone is going to be taking a lot of this information that you guys and applying it to their raise. So thank you so much for doing this with us.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much for hosting us.
Just a quick reminder that you can become an MJBulls member for just $4.99 per month and enjoy exclusive access to companies' pitch decks and the MJBulls Cannabis Capital Directory. Join today at MJBulls.com. Thanks for listening to the MJBulls podcast. To learn more about today's guest or to become a guest, visit our website at MJBulls.com. Today's show was produced by Bumminit Media, with original music composed by Jamie Humiston. I'm Dan Humiston, and you've been listening to the MJBulls podcast.